and hold on to your seats. You're racing with Long Island Trackside. Hello, I'm Rich Brown.
And I'm Bob Dillner. The Winston Modified Tour rolled into town this week. Wait a second, you don't know what the tour is all about? Well, let me explain. Its roar could be taken out of the scenes of a Western movie. The Winston Modified Tour is like a group of bandits traveling from town to town to do battle with the locals. These drivers compete in more than 20 races a year, traveling across the East Coast to do so. And just like the regulars at Riverhead, the Tour boys collect points for where they finish in each race. And at the end of the year, the person with the most points is crowned the Tour champ. Last year's champ Mike Stefanik pocketed more than $100,000 for winning the title. But when the Mod Tour cavalry of drivers march into Riverhead Raceway, they're known as outlaws. In fact, Riverhead regulars will tell you there's a bit of a rivalry.
No, there's always a rivalry when they come down here. This is like our hometown race of champions when all the big guys come to town. You don't want to ever be embarrassed at your home track. You know, we run here every week, and it's pretty embarrassing when they come in from out of town and take you out.
But do the Tour guys think there's a rivalry?
I don't know if you'd call it a rivalry. I mean, you know, we've got a theory. The guys on the Tour have a theory about the people from Long Island. You know, they all run real well here, but we firmly believe there's something in the water that's causing them to, after about 30 laps, slow down, and we're hoping that at that point we'll be able to get by them.
There might be with the hometown boys, but I don't think with the Tour guys look at it that way. They come in here, you know, and we just try to do our best. It's just another stop, you know, on the Tour, and basically just try to get out of here with a finish, you know.
You may have heard of the Strong Island Boys or the Suffolk Boys Posse, but now I'm going to introduce you to a Long Island gang that nobody wants to mess with. They go by the names of Baldwin, Park, Anderson, Ferrante, and Winitsko, and they're all members of a Long Island gang. They might not mug little old ladies at knife point, but they sure know how to carve their way around a racetrack. They might not spray paint graffiti on subway cars, but they're ready to trade paint with any race car at tracks across the country. They are the Long Island gang, and their reputation dates back more than 20 years.
The Long Island gang is a bunch of guys that are a threat to win anywhere, you know, not just on Long Island.
I got a lot of good guys in the gang, I'll tell you what. We're pretty hard to beat.
There's no place like Long Island when you want to do some racing.
Charlie DeZombit was one of the greatest modified drivers ever. He was known as Charging Charlie, a guy who would race you hard and mean. And even though he has passed on, he is still considered the spiritual leader of the gang. Tommy the Tiger Baldwin, the current head of the gang, can't run out of good things to say about Long Island's modified legend.
I just try to do what he does, and I'm running out of years, and I still haven't caught him. Maybe Michael and Steven might catch him. You know, that might be the deal. There was nobody drove a race car around this place like Charlie.
Bob Park is the only member who also has his son as part of the gang. This has its good points, but it's also got its downside too.
That's the tough part, trying to keep up to him. I usually ask him for advice instead of him coming and asking me for advice.
Right now, Tommy Baldwin and Wayne Anderson are running second and third in the points on the modified tour. And with talent like that, the legacy of the Long Island gang is sure to continue for some time to come.
The battle between the Winston Mod Tour drivers and the local boys turned into a boxing match, and it was a Winston Modified Tour driver that delivered the knockout punch. Mike Stefanik was tearing around the quarter-mile oval, breaking the track record to pick up the Bush Pole Award. Later that night, suspense filled the air as the modifieds rolled out into the track for the Miller Genuine Draft 201. When the green flag dropped, mighty Mike Stefanik jumped out in front of the field. While Stefanik began building a lead on Steve Park, Long Islanders Wayne Anderson and Tom Baldwin were making moves. They reached the top 5, only to fade after pitting for tires later in the race. Bob Park spun a couple times to bring out the yellow, and that's when things wild. On lap 61, Robin Vollmoller taps Steve Park going into turn 1, and then it's just a chain reaction. 13 cars are collected in this wreck, and for some, the damage was pretty severe. Drops of rain began to fall when the race resumed, so knowing that a race is official once past the halfway mark, drivers began to make their move, and Eddie Brunhutzel made his work, using a lapped car to take the lead. But Brunhutzel would lose his tires a few laps from the finish, and Stefanik took advantage, powering by the Long Islander to retake the lead. It was Stefanik's first win on the tour this year, and man was he happy.
We rolled it out of the truck. It felt comfortable. Put it on the pole. We bided our time. I let that guy go by me there in the long stretch there. Eddie Brunholz, he's running real good, and our car just stayed real good. And he started backing up a little bit, and he gave me the room, and we drove on by with a handful of laps to go, and it really feels good.
Feeling good at Riverhead is something Stefanik is getting used to. He won another tour event here back in 1986.